right, hey there, Sam here with you. It's Wednesday, March 20th. Kind of early afternoon, a bit late with these today, since we're doing an FX webinar amongst members this morning here, so I'm a little late getting to these. But here we go. So we had two that were very close, but we'll stick here because it's a couple I'd done recently. So this is TRX, TRON to Bitcoin. It's a tricky one. There's a few places where you've got to make some judgment calls here. So just the broader crypto winter, this sure looks like a three-wave correction. Now we've come down to this zone here where we're just basing. We've tagged it multiple times. As for the subdivision here, I think we're going to end up here. One way or another, there's a truncation. It looks like there's a couple of truncations, so it's not ideal for what you'd want to find. Not that it's not tradable, it's just that there's some unusual, at least from an Elliott perspective, so a couple of unusual pivots here. The ABC, I'm inclined to finish it down here into this double bottom here because of the subdivision. So if I go, let's see, we'll go to a 4 hour here. I think coming down here, the 1, 2, at first glance, it sure looks like it's impulsive, but I think you'd have to trade it this way. So you'd get an A, B, and then you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can get the 2. Get that. Oh, shit, you get the idea. So 1, 2, well, the subdivision all plays here into my 3. Now we do have this kind of unusual spike wick here. So we bottom, and then there's this little wick that drops us down that gives us a new low there. Could be what we need to get that fifth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and just that now I'm on a 4 hour here. So it looks like we finished the 5 here, but it's quickly rejected, and then we go into a 3 wave. So I think we finished down here with a truncated 5 based on what follows. So the symmetry of the 2 to the 4 is not great. So the one thought was that the 4 is here, and this is an ABC, but this doesn't play as well. And because there's a nice impulse here, and then the 3-wave correction, yes, of course, it's very deep for a 2, but we don't violate. I think the better play here is to call this the 4, and I understand, right? That's terrible symmetry. The 2 is just monstrous compared to the 4. But we have a little more complexity here. Of the 2, or so it's one or the other. I think this plays better into the double bottom here. So much as I am aware of the poor symmetry there, I think coming off of this double bottom low here gives us our best count because of what follows. So off of the double bottom here, I can get a clear impulse into a 1 wave here. Sorry, you got to move these when you bump around different time zones or time frames here, excuse me. So get that right on there. Okay, so I've got a clear 5, so I get a leading diagonal. It's relatively technical here. We get a technical pivot up here. A, B, looks like you'd have to go A, B because I can get 5 here. So A, B, C into the B and then drop down here. Very deep, granted, very deep for a 2. But given what comes off of that, I think we're better here going as a 1, 2 to accommodate what follows here. Now, so obviously we're doing this with the benefit of all of this history here. So you say, well, why do I care about what happens over here? Because it dictates what's likely happening here and where we are. So if we're going 1, 2, right, so and I think this is the count. There is no perfect count here, but if we're going 1, 2, then I think the impulse here gives us the 3 because the subdivision fits. Additionally, it's if I'm using this as my 1 at the start of my 1, this is my 2. Well, we've gone past the 2, 6, 1, 8. So interesting. So here's the high probability for the 3rd, but the subdivision. So we do get a little pivot here at the 1, 6, 1, 8, 1, 7, 5 window here, but because of what follows, I think we have to go 1, 2, 3. So from just readjusting this, and then here I go down to this one here, and then use this as my 2. Well, we're beyond the 200%. So 1, 2, 3 looks like a better candidate. Then I've got a little sideways. This looks like a triangle for the 3. So I think this plays better to get this 2, 3 in here. Well, now it gets tricky. So I'm going to go, well, let's go down to the 2 hour here. So I get an ABC. So as the situation at the low, there's a truncation somewhere. So I'm leaning this way. So I get the ABC for the 4, and it looks like it's trying to finish here. So we get a 1, 2, 3. Now, you might have been thinking, here's the 4. That would have given us an impulse as we don't overlap the 1. So it would have been easy to think that, oh, we're going up for the 5 there, but we don't get it. We roll over, and what you end up with is an algo on the other side. All right, here's golden zone to target. So this algo wins the day here, but this takes us down. As this drives down to get that target coming from the golden zone, we're overlapping the 1, meaning we got to trade this now as an impulse. So I think it's really a tricky one. So you'd have to go 1, 2, A, B, C into the 3, A, B, C into the 4. Now you'd be looking for something to help support the idea there. If you start the start of the 1 through the pivot of the 3, it's deep. We get the spike through the 50. Ideally, you hold at the 50, which would have been right at the 1. So you'd have been, thinking perhaps we're gonna sustain here the impulse. But then this just breaks down. So we don't make target. We don't get the clean subdivision. So I think you got to end up here with this trading as an ABC, 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 but we get a truncation in the 5th. I think that's let's call it, I don't want to say the lesser of the evils, but of the ugly counts, this is the least ugly. And at least it fits, I think, best with this price action. So you could certainly make the case that we've just got a big supply zone up here, and now we're coming down into some previous areas of support. So even if I just wick this off here, this 3 seems to be coming into play here. So this is just a little structure, and I think if I go left here, so here it was a pivot here. So support, resistance. Now, is it going to play as the support here? Well, kind of working through this somewhat ugly count. Well, if we're finished up here, all right, which open to interpretation, but this is how I would count it. So I've got it as 1, 2, 3, 4 into the 5. Now remember, an algorithm doesn't care about a truncated 5th. So I'm going to use I'm going to use the double bottom low here, which I believe is the start of the 1. So from the low here to the swing high, not the truncated 5th high, right? Get it right on there. Okay, so what have we done? We've just come right down to the 50. So at first glance, it might have been tempting to think, A, B, C, but I just don't think that's what we get. I think we've got the truncation here to accommodate the 3, 4. It looked like you were going, but nonetheless. So what do we have here? So it's not uncommon for the A wave to go to the 50, and it's too much of a force fit to try and get 3 out of that. It looks much more like a motive, and perhaps we've got another double bottom here. So interestingly, all of the doubles, right? So here, yeah, they're not to the tick perfect, but essentially you've got a big demand zone down here, or a basing or an accumulation phase, however you want to think of it. You've got this zone, and you've got this zone up here where we just keep running into supply kicking into the market. So you got a pretty fat range there between what we're seeing here. So if this is completed up here and we're at the 50, I'm not dying to buy this here because I don't like the subdivision. I want to see, this looks much more likely, whether it's here or here, some sort of it looks like an impulse. So I'd be looking for something along those lines before I got overly excited about it. Now here, even going to the 60, so 1, 2, 3, 4, it's not gorgeous no matter how you slice it. What I definitely don't want to do is try and force an ABC into that. Best case, it's some sort of an ugly A, and we're hovering here at the 50. Now we do have this, you'll note here, this little pocket of low volume down here, so we don't have market acceptance. If it's going to go deeper, well, you'd prefer, if you're bullish here, you'd prefer to see the 50 hold for the A, and thus that we'd end up with, if it's here, something along these lines here. You'd want to see something hopefully like that. But this is just kind of a slow grind lower. So it's not, I wouldn't be overly excited about a trade setting up there. Could you trade it? Yeah, sure. There's, you swing high, swing low, you're at a 50. Yeah, you could, but if you're going to put your Elliott hat on, it's tough to interpret this as a completed correction. So I'd be cautiously optimistic here. you know, yeah, you have a decent count here. I don't love the truncation, but you know, it's just, well, there it is, right? So what are you going to do? Either you're not going to trade it, or you're going to, if you like this project here, I just do think it's still too early because it's a bit of a guess here, right? Are we done? Is that correction over? The count is, you know, somewhat open to interpretation here because we've got this truncation here. Are we done here? Are we done here? It's just, it's enough of uncertainty here that I wouldn't be chasing anything here. I wouldn't. It's just me, right? So I know there's a lot of TRX bulls here, but as a trader, I just don't think you have enough evidence to support, okay, I've got my completed correction here, knowing that we could easily go 618, 786. There's plenty of room here. Now, if it's, there's not even any geometry here to work with here. This occurred to me here. Maybe you pull over here. You'd have to go to a modifier, but even those I think are going to be just too steep. It's just too steep. So you get the lower pivot here. I'd be kind of watching carefully for the all the way back. So if I pull this one off, since we know we're at kind of a critical level here, if I were using the median lines here, I might, well, let's pull them off here. I might be, well, this would be of interest to me. So, and then we've got this structure right here as well, this pivot here. Remember, as we went down and we tagged that algo target here from the sell side. So this area here would be an area of interest for me if we come back here, maybe a slight front run on the 50, anticipating. If this is the A, I want to see three-wave structure here, but I think that sets up more so of a sell, looking for this as my target rather than, well, how are you going to know? So if it's going to go as a B, so what's it likely to look like? Right? So, you know, nothing guaranteed, but let's push it over here a little bit. So if we come off of this and we get something like that, well, so the alternate, if you're right in that sweet spot, you'd be anticipating that we start now going like this, right? You're looking for that. So if you do something like this and you come up here and you get 2 and we're here, you can take the sell, but if it's, you might be cautiously concerned about the potential we do something like this. So you'd end up with a motive here, which would leave you having to deduce that this had to be complete because we can't go A motive. Now we could go A, B, and then if the subdivision supports it, but then I'd start to get more bullish because then your buy zone comes over here. If I come off of this with a motive, then I'd be more enthusiastic about, let's get that off of here, about the next retrace here. So if this gets there, if we get a motive off of this, then this is going to start to look more interesting to the buy side here, and I'll have to just, you may have to rework this count. Of course, it's certainly not unreasonable that this is not how this ends up getting counted once we get excuse me, more information. So this is my best guesstimate is what we have here, because there is no clear, you can't be definitive about a count up here. It's your best guesstimate as to what happened. And then this coming straight down certainly doesn't look like it's done yet. Now, if I see this, I'll rethink it. But right now, I'd be anticipating that this is going to come down and we're going to start this. So just my 2 cents for what it's worth here. If you're overly bullish, yeah, sure, you can buy it here, but I sure as hell would have a stop on it. All right, guys, that's all I got for that one.